And it is interesting what happens at scale versus a one-off deal. It is night and day. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that because I've lived this firsthand.
Yeah, and that's exactly as you said. Scale, it leverage, and so that's I think that one of the most important things. And so we break down is, you know, um, first of all, goals are very important to determine direction. However, I'm also a big believer. So, like, goals are great for people that want to win once. Systems are for people that want to have repeated success. And so when you take that, is the goals and then the systems that you build allow you to kind of scale that. And then more importantly is then taking and adding leverage to that. That can be leverage of just a traditional sense of financing, or that can be leveraging who's, not how, leveraging people, leveraging a greater force than just you. And so, I think the commonality that we have is their understanding is that, you can make more money, you can't make more time. And so time becomes super, super valuable to you. And that's where the institutional players and investors understand the big scale of this is it's the same amount of work to flip a 25 or 50,000 or $100,000 house as it is to flip a $1 million house. It's the same, amount of work to do a $2 million deal as to do a $200 million deal. Same amount of work, same amount of time. The numbers have then been moved over a little bit. And then when you're playing on these bigger kind of scales, is the multiplier is much greater. You make a 10% return on a $200 million deal. Wow, that's $20 million, which could be a life-changing amount of money. Where you make a 10% return on a $100,000 deal, that's 10 grand. I'm not saying 10 grand is not a lot of money, but it's not typically a life-changing amount of money. And so and that's where scale and where we've kind of been looking at is, how do we, do this on a little bit bigger level? Where I found that my sweet spot is that $3 to $30 million kind of deal size, because it's not competing with the institutional investors. I go do the hard work that puts the pretty bow and hands it off to them because they don't want to write checks for less than 50 or $100 million. I have one, we're trying to queue up kind of a bigger kind of assemblage, and they're like, yeah, 50 million equity check is just too small. We're not even going to really look at that. And so I was just like, wow, that's kind of crazy to me. But that just is trending as far as, one of the other crazy, facts is that 1/3 of all the US dollars ever in the history of the world were just created in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
$20 trillion. So it was like, to me, we can get into some, nerdy finance talk as saying that every central bank in the world's doing it at the same time, that causes and pulls down inflationary pressures. And is there going to be deflation? And is technology going to drive down? Maybe. But to me, when you print that much money, you create that much money, it causes inflation. And so then again, to leverage and to scalability is, I think we're ushering in a golden era of opportunity for anyone that wants to kind of be in solid assets. And, I would just rather use my time on things that are a little bit bigger in size and check size. Again, that happens to be, I have 20 years investing experience. That's not going to be for everyone. A good deal for me may be a terrible deal for someone else, and vice versa. A good deal for them may be a terrible deal for me. So it's very hard to determine and say what's the right deal. Scale might be doing 10 houses in a year for somebody. For me, it might be 1,000. I don't know, but there's definitely a multiplier effect when you start getting and thinking bigger. And then what happens is you get momentum, and then it snowballs on itself. And then you get the people that want to throw big money at you or projects.